Another long day, I thought, as the alarm rang. It was 3:30 a.m., and I would be working another 12-hour shift in the memory care unit at the Sunnyside Care Facility. The world outside was bathed in an inky darkness, and the quietude of the early morning amplified the anticipation of another challenging day. I had come to cherish this routine, though, a chance to weave through the labyrinth of memories that resided in the minds of those in my care. We lost another one yesterday. My favorite, Mrs. Bennett. This is always especially difficult for me since I get attached so quickly. I had a special connection with Mrs. Bennett, though. She had been a professional dancer in her younger years and even performed in several Broadway and touring shows. Her tales of the spotlight, the dance floor, and the electric energy of the audience had become a cherished part of my routine. I was also a dancer, but not at the level of Mrs. Bennett. I enjoyed my weekly dance classes, and they were a great stress reliever, but I did them mostly for the exercise and to meet other people. I loved listening to Mrs. Bennett's colorful stories about the places she went and the people she met throughout her career. In those moments, the age and frailty seemed to disappear, replaced by the vibrant memories of a life well lived. Mrs. Bennett had 2 children, Amy and Abby. She loved and adored her children and got excited when they came to visit. She was always eager to see them and often asked, "When will you give me a grandchild?" She had been declining for several months, and Alzheimer's had taken control, so we knew her time was limited. Amy and Abby had been coming by more often lately and wanted to spend as much time with their mother as they could. Mrs. Bennett could no longer remember much of anything and had pretty much stopped talking about her dance career and couldn't remember her own daughter's names at times.
"What's your name, dear?"
In the last month or so, she often mumbled about Little Boy Blue or the boy in the corner. None of us knew or understood most of what she said, but went along with her. If we questioned anything about the boy, she would get extremely upset and angry, so we didn't want to push it.
"Little Boy Blue is..."
Yesterday, she couldn't stop talking about this boy. She was very upset and crying, and we couldn't seem to calm her. She claimed to see the little boy in a blue onesie sitting in the corner of the room staring at her. She kept repeating, "He wants me to come with him. He wants me to come with him.
He wants me to come with him.
I'm afraid. I don't want to go.
I don't want to go. Help me."
This went on all day, but we were finally able to convince her to eat some pudding, and we changed the subject. She finally fell asleep in her wheelchair, so we left her alone, hoping she would forget about the little boy. We wheeled her into the recreation room, thinking this would help, since she was only seeing the little boy in the corner of the other room. Suddenly, she awoke in a fright, raised her head, and started screaming uncontrollably and looking around the room. "He is here!
He is here!
He is here!
He is here!"
"Who?" I
asked. "The little boy in blue."
"The little boy in blue," she answered. "Where is he? Can you see him?"
There.
There. He is coming for me.
He is coming
He
for
wants me to go with him."
He wants
she
me
screamed.
to go
As she
with
stared
him.
at the doorway, her eyes widened, her jaw dropped, and she froze. The scream stopped, and she said one word, "Andy,"
Andy,
before slumping into the wheelchair. This was her last word. I couldn't get a hold of Abby since she was at work, so I quickly called Amy to tell her the news. As I explained about the little boy in the blue onesie and how Mrs. Bennett said he was coming for her, Amy started to sob. When I told her the last word her mother uttered was, "Andy,"
Andy,
she cried hysterically. She was too upset and couldn't talk anymore and hung up the phone. A few minutes later, once she composed herself, Amy called back and explained that she had been pregnant a few months ago and had lost the baby. She never told her mother about it because she didn't want to upset her. This would have been the first grandchild for Mrs. Bennett, and Amy planned to name the child after her grandfather, Andy. The revelation sent shivers down my spine, realizing that Mrs. Bennett, even in her foggy state, had been a vessel for a message from beyond, connecting a grieving mother to her unborn child. The mystery of the little boy in the blue onesie remained, but the room, now filled with a heavy silence, carried the weight of an extraordinary and poignant farewell. The echoes of Mrs. Bennett's life lingered, leaving an indelible mark on the canvas of memory she had woven, with grace and resilience.
"Andy!"